So we want to start with just talking about why even talk about this, because it's been confusing for some people about why we don't just keep it silent and keep it to ourselves and not talk about it.
Why don't you just let it go? Just forget about it. Just, why do you got to be vocal? So I think I've shared, I had a huge long why video.
If you don't know, Mackenzie is Haley's sister.
Yeah, she's my sister. I should have confirmed that.
Introduce yourself.
Yes. Okay, so I'm Haley Rham. I'm married to Reagan. And this is Mackenzie Woodward now. You go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Mackenzie Woodward. I'm married and I have 2 boys, and we live in Indiana now. And my why for why we are doing this is because it is very important to me that the truth sets people free, because the truth set me free from a horror that I didn't think I could ever escape. And I want other people who might relate to certain parts of my story, whether it's the religious abuse, the sexual abuse, the verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, or the mental abuse, or whatever kind of abuse you want to go through, you relate to, not want to go through. I want them all to know that there is healing for every single aspect of your story, because there was healing for every aspect of my story. And I want to shine a light on the evil that was done to me, simply because exposing the darkness makes room for the light. And the Bible talks about how the light reveals those deep secrets, those dark secrets, the darkness. And in doing that, the light can come in and healing can begin and restoration can happen. So that is why I want to speak up for the silence. And there has been a lot of oppression in not just my family, but in the families we were raised around, the culture that we grew up in, the cult we were raised in. There was huge silencing of the women and no justice for anything that happened to them. And I'm tired of it. So I'm speaking up.
Well, I'm very, very impressed and very proud of your courage being able to speak up, because it's not easy to do. So we really appreciate that. And and we're planning on doing 2 parts, right? So second part, we'll probably get more into how you were healed and more into, but this will be kind of more so to maybe for people that are maybe feeling alone or are experiencing symptoms, because that's the thing is you'll experience symptoms, physical symptoms as an adult from trauma and abuse that happened to you as a child. So we'll cover some of that, and then
we'll tease that.
We'll probably have Mackenzie back on for part 2 to talk more about her healing journey and how you can actually be healed of all those harmful physical effects from trauma and abuse.
Yes.
Yes, because that's the exciting part.
Yes. When we started this video series, we didn't have this little guy yet. So
you were pregnant in those videos.
I was pregnant with this little guy. So
that's why we haven't done any videos in a while.
Yeah. Little Archer. I say hello. Say hello, people. Hi. Anyway. So obviously we grew up in the same household, right? And there's been other siblings who've been like, that wasn't my experience. You're telling lies.
Well, the person who said that, they have experienced stuff too.
They had forgotten it. They had experienced it. But they were saying what I was mostly the beatings actually and the grooming was not true. And I think this is very common where people can be raised in the same exact household, but this is true of healthy parents and this is true of unhealthy parents. No child, all siblings, all children in that house are not parented exactly the same way.
Nope. And I have 2 children, and I can tell you that even though I love them dearly with all my heart, they are not getting the same mom, because I react differently to different scenarios. They both have different personalities and they both need different things from me. And so even just in that aspect of being nurtured, neither of them are going to have the same memories of me growing up. Everyone has their own individual experience and personalities react differently. That's a beautiful thing. But it also makes it confusing when abusers come from this, or the abused come from the same household, because then it sounds like one of them is lying, because they say they have a testimony about one thing, like, oh, I was beaten in this way. And another sibling will say, well, I was beaten in this way, so you're wrong. I don't remember that. And it gets even more muddying when you have abuse survivors who completely forget their experiences at all. And they just, and that happened for me too.
Yeah, that dissociative amnesia, which a lot of people don't realize is a legitimate thing. It's an actual thing, and it's a coping mechanism and a survival mechanism to keep you alive long enough so that you can hopefully get to a safer place one day. And then once you're in a safe place, then you can unfortunately remember things. It's a good and a bad thing all in one, because right, it feels horrible when you're going through it, but at the same time, it's what's needed. And so with that in mind, how do you feel like can we actually trust our own memories? Like, how do you think we can go about doing that?
Well, first of all, like you said, you have to feel safe. That's the most important thing. Your body won't remember it if you're not feeling safe. Unfortunately, like you said, it's when you reach that safe place that you can finally remember. And when you get to that safe place, there's a relief that happens where you're like, finally, I'm okay. And then your body starts remembering stuff and you're like, oh, shoot, what is this? And then it feels like you're not safe anymore because now you're being, for me, it was being every Monday I would talk with you guys and we would go into, the memories that I'd forgotten. They were very horrible memories and my body had to repress them because it prioritized keeping me alive. And I would have gone insane if I remembered that. If I had had to carry all of those memories with me, my brain would have just broken. But when I was reliving them, I was like, I know there's a reason why I forgot this. And it's, I was grateful my body had kept it from me, but it's also really hard when it comes out. And the only reason that I can trust my memories is because of the consistency with how it came out. Every time I would relive one incident, it would always be the same physical manifestations that I would be feeling and feeling. I think I just said the same thing.
All right.
I'm a little nervous.
That's what happens when you do live streams, so that's all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, what you're talking about is called repressed memories, and isn't it true that those are considered credible in like court? That
Yes, they are. They are taken. I think they're taken with a grain of salt, because people can have, right. That's true. False memories. People can have false memories. Like they've done studies where people actually remembered something that wasn't true because the people suggested to them a memory. That's why when police take these kinds of repressed memories, they're taught to do as many open-ended questions and not leading questions as they possibly can, because they don't want to lead the victim into thinking, adding things there that aren't there. So you do have to be very careful that you don't plant thoughts in your own mind. But the memories that I remembered, I couldn't have imagined them, because if I was going to imagine something, it would not be the way that I imagined. Like I would not have come up with it. And that was one of the reasons I knew that it wasn't from my own imagination, was because this never would have occurred to me to imagine this. Given you have Lyme disease like Haley, who was taken to the doctor and to a scientist.
Yeah.
And you can try to kill it or not. We don't care. I never felt like anyone cared that I was in pain. I would wake up with back pain so bad. This more happened when I was 17. So when I was 17, I was raped and also strangled in another sexual assault by a family member. And after that, my symptoms worsened. That's when I really started taking the naps and just being so tired, fatigued all throughout the day. I felt incredibly weak. My body just felt so awful. I ached all the time. I just wanted some relief. And like sleep was the only escape. And I would sleep for a while. After I graduated, I would sleep until 9 a.m. and I just did not want to get up before then. And it wasn't that I stayed up super late, because I also would have trouble like staying awake. So I was getting like 9-10 hours of sleep a night, and I still felt energyless and just fatigued. And it never occurred to me to go to my parents and say, I have pain. And I mean, there was one time, you remember this, Haley, where mom gave us something for the
Teasel.
Lyme disease?
Teasel root.
Teasel root. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just remember that night.
Teasel root.
It's crazy. There can be so much rape going on, and the parents do nothing or don't know about it.
I don't know.
Teasel root.
Yeah. I don't know if they knew about mine, because I don't know if I ever said anything.
Yeah, to the extent of my knowledge, Joseph said he asked if we were safe with his family around. To the extent
yes,
of my knowledge, nothing ever happened.
Yes, to the extent of mine as well. Nothing ever happened with your family. Fair question. Because so many of the families that we were around were also experiencing this in their families. A lot of families that Michael Johnson pastored. And I say that in quotations because when you're shepherding a flock, you should shepherd them, not let this stuff fly by right under your nose. So many instances. It just, like Emily said in the recording, it has touched every one of us. I don't think she meant that ironically, but it is ironic that she used the word touched. But yeah, everyone has been affected by it, and there has been no justice.
So that's also probably why we're doing this, is we want to get it to stop, and that people who know your family, that they can be aware of that it's not safe.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's already started to spread, and I won't go into more detail on that, but it's already started to spread.
Yeah, it's already started to spread, and that's kind of why, like, that was one of the reasons why I was like, I gotta go public, is because we were painted as this paragon of Christian virtue.
Yeah. And we tried to handle it internally. We did videos to them. We've had conversations, hours of conversations, and they all went to Pastor Johnson trying to get him to do something, and he did nothing.
Yeah.
So like, this is our last resort.
Yeah.
But then it became it's like,
I know so many more people who can help too.
Other people who just are struggling to speak, because it's like when one person can step out and start talking, someone can do that, then it makes it a little bit easier for someone else to come in and say, hey, that happened to me. Or
yeah, yes, because I wouldn't have gotten healing if it hadn't been for you. I mean, I would not have finally repented, I think, because I mean, the Lord could use anything, but he used you in a very special way. It used you talking to me for a year.
If it hadn't been me, he would have used somebody else for sure.
I am glad it was you.